you okay?
Yes, thanks to you. You always manage to make me laugh like that.
It's my favorite thing to do. I could stay here forever.
Me too.
It's perfect.
I never thought I would feel this way again. It's a strange mix of fear and hope.
You look at me as if I'm whole. I'm just not sure I know how to be that person yet. But how can you say that after everything you've been through? It doesn't make sense. I never thought I'd feel this way again. It's like something out of a dream.
It is, isn't it?
I'm glad I get to share it with you.
I never talk about that time. It was difficult. But looking at you now, it feels easier to share.
Sophia's heart pounded in her chest as she hurried down the crowded city street, her mind racing. She was late. Again. The cafe, where she worked as a coffee maker, was only a few blocks away, but the clock seemed to mock her every step. She could already hear Mr. Ellis, her boss, reprimanding her for being tardy, his voice echoing in her head. She barely noticed the bustling people around her, lost in the frantic rhythm of her life. But as she neared the crossroad, something caught her eye. A man in a wheelchair was struggling to get across the street, his wheels caught on the uneven pavement. The car zooming towards him was too close for comfort, its horn blaring. Without a second thought, Sophia dashed forward, heart hammering in her chest. She reached him just in time, grabbing the back of his wheelchair and pulling him back to the sidewalk. The car screeched past, missing them by mere inches. For a moment, everything stood still. Sophia's breath was ragged, and her pulse raced, but the man in the wheelchair was steady. He looked at her with wide, grateful eyes, and for a second, it felt as though the entire world had shrunk down to just the two of them. "Thank you," his voice was low, but full of emotion. "I don't know what I would have done without you." Sophia found herself speechless, caught in his gaze. There was something about him, something mysterious in his eyes that made her heart flutter. His face, handsome but marked with a subtle sadness, made her feel an odd mix of compassion and intrigue. "I'm just glad I was there," she managed to reply, offering a soft smile, still reeling from the rush of adrenaline. He smiled back, his gratitude written in the lines of his face. "I'm Alexander," he said, his voice warm yet quiet. "Sophia," she replied, feeling her cheeks flush as the silence stretched between them. He nodded and adjusted his wheelchair, preparing to move on. But just before he wheeled away, he looked back at her, their eyes meeting again. His smile lingered, almost knowingly. "Thank you again. You saved my life today," he said softly. Sophia's heart skipped a beat. The moment felt significant, but before she could process it, he was gone, vanishing into the crowd. She stood there for a moment, caught between the overwhelming feeling of connection and the sudden urge to forget it. It was just a fleeting moment, wasn't it? But as she walked away, the image of Alexander lingered in her mind. The man in the wheelchair, grateful yet mysterious, and so different from anyone she had ever met. Welcome to this unforgettable journey of love, challenges, and unexpected connections. If you're ready to be swept away by a story that will leave you breathless, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss a moment. Let's dive into the world of Sophia and Alexander, where destiny brings them together at the crossroads of life. The next few days passed in a blur of coffee cups and rushed mornings. But no matter how hard she tried to focus on her work, Sophia couldn't shake the image of Alexander from her mind. Their brief encounter had left an unexpected imprint on her heart, and as the days wore on, she found herself wishing for another chance to see him. Fate, it seemed, had other plans. It was a Thursday afternoon when she saw him again. Sophia was walking to the cafe when she spotted him sitting outside a small bookstore, reading a book, his wheelchair tilted slightly as he enjoyed the fresh air. Her breath caught in her throat, and before she could stop herself, she found her feet moving toward him. Alexander? Her voice was tentative, unsure if he'd even remember her. He looked up, his expression brightening when he saw her. Sophia, I was hoping I'd run into you again. Sophia smiled, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through her. I didn't think I'd see you outside the cafe. I come here often, said, his eyes glinting with a hint of playfulness. It's one of the few places I can enjoy some peace and quiet. Would you care to join me for coffee? Sophia hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Sure, I'd love to. As they made their way to a nearby cafe, they fell into an easy conversation.
You always manage to make me laugh like that.
It's my favorite thing to do.
As they sipped their drinks, they shared stories about their childhood, their families, and what they wanted out of life. With each passing moment, Sophia felt a deeper connection with him, and she began to wonder if perhaps there was more to this than just a chance encounter. It was in the quiet moments between their words that she began to notice something else, something intangible but undeniable. There was a magnetic pull between them, an attraction that neither of them seemed willing to acknowledge, but neither could ignore. Their meetings became more frequent. Alexander would join her for coffee after work, or they would take long walks through the park, talking about everything and nothing. As their connection deepened, so did their attraction. But there was something unspoken, something Sophia couldn't quite grasp. She found herself drawn to him in a way she couldn't explain, but her mind kept drifting back to the same thought. He's in a wheelchair. Could I really do this? Could I love him despite his disability? She never voiced these concerns to Alexander, but she couldn't help but feel conflicted. She had never been in a relationship with someone who needed special care. Could she be the woman he needed, or was she simply romanticizing the idea of him? The last thing she wanted was to pity him, or worse, become someone who only cared for him out of obligation. Still, their connection grew stronger, and the more time they spent together, the more Sophia realized that there was something beyond his disability that made him irresistible. Alexander wasn't just the man in a wheelchair. He was Alexander, the man with the heart and mind that captivated her, the man who made her feel alive in ways she hadn't known before. One evening, after a particularly intimate dinner, Alexander and Sophia found themselves alone in his apartment. The atmosphere was charged with tension, a silent question hanging between them. Neither of them had spoken it, but the attraction was undeniable. Alexander reached out, his fingers brushing gently against her hand. The touch sent a spark through her. She felt her heart race, but she hesitated.
I'd feel this way again. It's like something out of a dream.
It is, isn't it?
I'm glad I get to share it with you.
Eyes softened. I want you to be sure. I don't want you to feel like you have to be here with me. I know I'm not like other men. Sophia's heart ached at his vulnerability. You're right, she whispered. You're not like anyone I've ever met. But that's why I'm here. She leaned forward, her voice filled with sincerity. I'm here because I want to be here, with you. And then, as if everything else had faded into the background, their lips met in a kiss. It was gentle at first, a slow exploration of feelings that had been building for weeks. But soon the kiss deepened, and the world around them disappeared. There was only the two of them, the connection, the emotions, the unspoken understanding that this was something real, something that went beyond surface appearances. As the weeks passed, their bond grew stronger. Sophia found herself eagerly anticipating their time together, whether it was long, intimate conversations or simply sitting in companionable silence. Alexander had a way of making her feel seen, truly seen, in a way she hadn't known before. There was no pretension in his words, no hidden agendas. He wasn't just interested in her because of her kindness or her looks. He was genuinely interested in what made her tick, in what shaped her as a person. Their days were filled with small moments that felt monumental. Alexander would help her after work with a few chores around the house, making her laugh as they cooked dinner together. On weekends, they explored hidden parts of the city, finding new cafes or visiting parks where they would talk about their dreams, their fears, and their aspirations. One afternoon, while walking through the quiet paths of a park, Sophia couldn't help but glance at him, taking in his sharp features, his soulful eyes, and the undeniable strength that emanated from him despite the wheelchair. They had been through so much, and yet there was a quiet resilience in him that fascinated her. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked softly, breaking the comfortable silence that had settled between.
I never thought I would feel this way again. It's a strange mix of fear and hope.
Before the accident, she clarified. The company, the freedom, the everything. Alexander's gaze turned distant for a moment, and he was quiet, reflecting on her question. He had been asked this before, but something in the way she asked it made him pause. "Sometimes," he admitted, his voice quiet, "I miss the freedom, but in some ways, I feel more free now. I have time to do things that matter, things I would have ignored before. But there are still days when I wish I could just stand up and walk without thinking about it. Sometimes I feel trapped in this chair." Sophia's heart clenched at his vulnerability. "I can't imagine what that's like for you," she whispered, reaching out to touch his arm gently. He smiled at her, his eyes softening.
I never talk about that time. It was difficult. But looking at you now, it feels easier to share.
In that moment, she realized just how deeply she had come to care for him. It wasn't about the wheelchair. It wasn't about what he had lost. It was about the man in front of her. The man who had opened up in ways most people never would. Billionaire life. One evening, Alexander invited Sophia to dinner at an upscale restaurant, one of those places where the cost of a single entree could pay rent for a month. When she arrived, dressed in a simple yet elegant dress, she was surprised by the lavish atmosphere. The restaurant had an air of exclusivity, with candlelit tables and waiters in formal uniforms. "I wasn't expecting this," Sophia said, glancing around, feeling slightly out of place. "Neither was I, honestly," Alexander replied with a grin. "But tonight's special. You'll see why." They were seated at a private table, overlooking the twinkling city skyline. The moment was beautiful, and Sophia found herself completely mesmerized by the view and the ambiance. But she also couldn't shake the nagging feeling in her chest, as though tonight was about to bring something she wasn't prepared for. Over their meal, Alexander shared stories of his childhood, his family, and the first days of his company. He spoke with passion about the things that had once driven him, the startup ideas, the late-night brainstorming sessions with his team, the projects that had made him a success. But as he talked, something in his eyes shifted. a faint sadness that Sophia hadn't noticed before. After dinner, Alexander took her hand and led her to a quieter area of the restaurant, away from the bustling crowd. As they passed a small fountain, he paused and turned to face her. "Sophia, there's something I've been meaning to tell you," he said, his voice serious. Sophia looked at him, sensing the gravity in his tone. "What is it?" "I haven't been entirely honest with you," he began, his words carefully measured. "About who I really am." Sophia's heart skipped a beat. She had already suspected that Alexander wasn't just some quiet man in a wheelchair, but this? What was he about to reveal? "I've told you about my past," he continued, his gaze steady, though there was a flicker of hesitation. "But there's something you don't know. I wasn't always like this. I wasn't always this." Sophia frowned, confused. "What do you mean?" Alexander sighed, running his hand through his hair. "I used to be a tech mogul, a billionaire, in fact. I built a company from the ground up. But after the accident, I stepped away from everything. I hid myself from the world. I didn't want anyone to see me as the rich guy in a wheelchair. I wanted to be loved for who I truly am, not for what I had." The words hit Sophia like a punch to the gut. A billionaire? The man she had grown so close to? The man who had shared his dreams and his heart with her? He saw the confusion in her eyes and quickly added, "I didn't want to tell you like this, but I think it's time. You deserve to know who I really am." Sophia's mind was a whirlwind. She had known there was something different about him, but this revelation threw her into turmoil. She had fallen for him, the man she had come to know as Alexander. But now, the man she thought she knew had a past far beyond what she could have imagined. Sophia's mind raced as she processed what Alexander had told her. The evening had gone from romantic to something far more complicated. She found herself questioning everything about their relationship. Was she falling in love with Alexander the man or Alexander the billionaire? The next few days were filled with doubt and confusion. She couldn't stop thinking about him, about his wealth, about what he had shared. But every time she tried to reach out to him, the questions swirled in her mind, and her uncertainty only grew. She felt like she didn't know him at all. How could she be sure her feelings were real? What if she was just swept up in the idea of who he was, not who he really was? As the days passed, she pulled away from him. She canceled their plans, avoided his calls, and drowned herself in work to distract from the questions that plagued her. Alexander, for his part, seemed to sense the distance between them. He tried to reach out, but each time he did, Sophia was more distant, more closed off. She didn't want to hurt him, but the truth was, she was scared of his wealth, scared of his disability, scared that she wasn't enough for him. She needed time to think, to figure out what she really felt. The days following the gala passed in a blur for Sophia. She went through the motions of her daily life, work, errands, the occasional chat with friends, but her thoughts were consumed by Alexander. He was always there, lingering in the back of her mind. She couldn't escape the pull, nor the overwhelming sense of confusion. Every time she saw him, she saw the billionaire he had once been, the man who had built something incredible, someone powerful, someone out of her league. And yet, the man she had spent the last few weeks with, the one who had kissed her with such tenderness, was now shrouded in doubt. Was she really in love with him? Or had she simply been swept away by the idea of him, the mystery, the romance, the hidden wealth? Sophia's doubts grew with every passing day. She couldn't stop questioning herself. The man she had come to care for, no, the man she had fallen in love with, was no longer the one she thought she knew. And now, all she could think of was his fortune. One evening, as she sat alone in her apartment, the weight of the situation pressed down on her chest like a heavy burden. She couldn't bear the thought of pushing Alexander away any longer, but she couldn't figure out how to move forward. Her emotions were a tangled mess, each strand of doubt pulling at her heart. It had been a week since the gala, and Sophia hadn't responded to any of Alexander's messages. She had avoided his calls, and every time she passed by the cafe, she'd look away, pretending she hadn't seen him sitting there, waiting. But he wasn't giving up. One evening, as she left work, she found him standing outside her apartment building, waiting for her. His face was a mixture of determination and quiet worry, his eyes scanning the crowd as if searching for her. "Sophia," he called softly as she approached, "we need to talk." She stopped, her chest tightening. There was no avoiding this moment, no running away. They needed to face the truth, whatever it was. "I know you've been avoiding me," he continued, his voice steady but laced with hurt. "And I understand why. But I can't let this go without hearing from you." Sophia's heart ached at the pain in his voice. She had wanted to run away from all of this, to forget about the complications that came with loving him. But now, standing before him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, she realized just how much she had been running from herself. "I'm sorry," she whispered, the words barely leaving her lips. "I've been confused, Alexander. I don't know what to think anymore." He took a step closer, his gaze softening. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I never wanted you to feel like you had to choose between my past and who I am now." Tears filled Sophia's eyes as she looked at him. "It's not about that," she admitted, her voice breaking. "It's about me. I've been scared. Scared that maybe I'm not enough for you, that I'll never be able to give you everything you deserve." Alexander reached out, cupping her face gently in his hands. "Sophia, you are more than enough. You don't need to give me anything but your heart. That's all I want, and I don't care about the money, the business, the wealth. I care about you, the woman who stood by me when I needed her the most, the woman who saved my life, not just that day in the street, but every day since. You've shown me more love and care than I ever thought I deserved." Sophia's breath caught in her throat. She had been so afraid of the truth, but now that it was out in the open, she realized she had been running from the love she had always longed for. "I love you, Alexander," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. "I've been so afraid of this, but I realize now that it's you I want. Not your money, not your past. Just you. You." His eyes softened, and with a smile that melted her heart, he whispered, "I love you too, Sophia. I have from the moment you saved me." And with that, the world seemed to fall into place. All the fear, all the uncertainty faded away. What they had was real, and nothing else mattered. A few weeks passed, and their relationship grew stronger than ever. Alexander's past was no longer a barrier. It was simply part of who he was. He no longer hid behind his fortune or his disability. He had nothing to prove to anyone except Sophia, and he had already proven everything she needed to see. One evening, as the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of pink and orange, Alexander took Sophia by the hand and led her to a quiet rooftop garden overlooking the city. It was a place they had visited before, a peaceful spot where they had shared some of their deepest conversations. Tonight, though, it felt different. The air was thick with anticipation, and Sophia couldn't help but wonder what he had planned. She looked at him, her heart racing. "Sophia," he began, his voice soft but steady. "I've never believed in fate, but I do believe in us. I believe in you and me, in everything we've been through to get here. And I know that I'm the luckiest man in the world because I've found someone who loves me for who I am, not who I was or what I have. You've shown me a love I never knew existed." Sophia's breath caught in her throat, and she felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. Alexander dropped to one knee, his hands trembling slightly. "Sophia, will you marry me? Will you be mine forever, through all the challenges and all the joy?" Sophia couldn't speak at first. The emotion swelled in her chest, but when the words finally came, they were simple, yet filled with everything she felt. "Yes," she whispered, her voice full of love and certainty. "Yes, I'll marry you." The moment was perfect as he slipped the ring onto her finger, his lips finding hers in a kiss that sealed their promise to each other. Their wedding was a celebration of love, resilience, and commitment. Surrounded by their friends and family, Alexander and Sophia exchanged vows beneath a canopy of flowers, their hearts intertwined in a bond that was unbreakable. As they stood hand in hand, looking out at the future they would share, Sophia knew that it wasn't about wealth or disability. It was about the love they had built, one built on trust, honesty, and the understanding that they were stronger together than apart. With every passing day, they continued to build their future. Alexander's philanthropic endeavors flourished, and Sophia found herself working alongside him, using her own talents to support causes that were dear to them both. Together, they faced the world, ready for whatever came their way. And as they danced together on their wedding night, surrounded by the people who loved them, they knew that nothing could ever tear them apart. Their love was a love that had survived everything and would continue to flourish for the rest of their lives. Thank you for joining me on this emotional roller coaster. If you felt the love, the tension, and the passion between Sophia and Alexander, like this video and share it with someone who needs a little inspiration in their love life. Don't forget to comment below with your thoughts, and if you believe that true love really does conquer all. Stay tuned for more heartwarming stories and hit that subscribe button to continue following these unforgettable journeys.